guys. Can you hear me right at the back? Good morning. I think that was quite a kind introduction from the team here. Thank you so much. This morning, I want to just start with just telling you about if some of you are wondering what this OCD is about. So I wanted to start with that. Let's see if this clicker works. Before I do that, I just want to check with you. How many of you were here yesterday morning when Mr. Amitabh Kant was talking and he spoke about and you remember the Einstein and his driver story? Okay, quite a few. So I'm not the driver. And he also, I think, spoke about the fact that, he was in a discussion where there were a lot of politicians out there, and he was talking of the story of Laluji and Mulayamji, where it ended up that it seems Laluji ended up reading the script of Mulayamji. So just to, with complete disclosure, this is my own script, this is my own handwriting, so I'm not reading anybody else's script here. So on that note, very quickly, this is what I meant by OCD, Obsessive Customer Devotion. And let me just take a few minutes to try and explain to you what I mean by this. I think all of us here have, something or the other, either we are obsessive about or we are very devoted to. I think we are obsessive about a lot of times the stuff that we do, we are passionate about the startups that we run here, and we are devoted to our parents, the God we trust. I am devoted to my wife. So I think all of us have something or the other that we are devoted to. And if somebody was to say anything bad about your parents, don't we just shout and say, don't talk about my dad? We are extremely, extremely possessive, obsessive about that. But when it comes to the customer, are we as obsessive? That's the question that I was raising in my mind when I was thinking about today's session. Are we really obsessive when we think about our customers? If something goes wrong with them, if something that we had promised them, we are not able to give them. So what is that really should be done to bring these things out? And while I was thinking about it, it took me just, I went back in time. Because we are here today at an event which is all about stories. So I thought, let me also go back in time and think about some of the things about customer obsession and how it all started for me in my own journey, and how it became something that I really, really obsess about and I'm devoted to. So I will just share with you in the next few minutes my own story. How many startups are here? Is everybody in the room a startup? I can't see any hands here, so not too sure. Okay. So everybody is pretty much a startup here. So for me, the startup journey started almost over 40 years back, because my father used to run a startup. He was an entrepreneur. And for his whole life, he ran this startup. And for me, that's what was my first inspiration. And that was first inspiration about how startups should work. In those days, many years back, whenever I used to ask him his story, there were, how he started up. It was always bootstrapped. The money he got was some of the savings from his first job, money he borrowed from his parents, and money that he got from his friends. There was no concept of VCs. There was no concept of valuation. And he never thought that he will exit one day and sell it off and move on. For him, his company, his venture was his life. So that was one of the first lessons that I learned as I was growing up. And those were the dinner table conversations we used to have as to how he needs to ensure that the customers that he works for, he's able to give them what he's promising them. Even if it took nights and nights in his office, days and days living away from the family, but ensuring that he serves the customers that he's promised to serve. So for us, that was, as kids, a huge, huge inspiration. As things went along, I finished my studies and have had a very interesting journey in the last 20 years. One of my other first startups was almost 20 years back. This was called a small boutique marketing consultancy and advertising company called Dhar and Hoon, started by two gentlemen Abhinav Dhar and Ajit Hoon, and I went and joined them. It was purely on gut feel at that point in time. I just felt I wanted to learn more closely about how consumer behavior works and what is it to work on, it was run through Ajit's small garage, actually. At that point in time, we did not know what the word startup means. Nobody used to call that. It was just a very small company doing work for some brands. And the learnings there were more coming from the fact that, there I learned that the people who create communication or marketing are very different from the people who consume communication and marketing. I can almost draw a parallel. I'm sure a lot of you guys are building some amazing, amazing products. And are you able to see what the consumer is wanting? And that is what this whole obsession thing is all about, which I learned so many years back. From there, during the journey, I went on to work on some of the brands of Google. Google was very interesting because Google is a very, very deeply consumer and product-obsessed company. And one of the things that we used to speak there about was know the customer, know the magic. Magic is the product, connect the two. So there also this whole obsession about who the customer is and how do we serve him the best. So that was another area where I learned a lot about how to become customer-obsessed. And in this journey, in the last few years, I had an opportunity to work at Reliance Jio, which today it's come to its fruition and there are over 100 million users. But I was part of the team when we were still thinking, how do we get the users? And we were really, really obsessed how we can make the life for the users easy. If some of you were to rewind and go back 3-4 years when you took your first SIM card, to get a SIM card activated, it took anywhere between 48 hours to 72 hours. And we were obsessing about the fact that how do we bring it down? And Mr. Ambani himself was involved in this. So I remember he came and gave us this grand challenge and said, how can you bring it down to 15 minutes? I honestly thought the man has lost it. If you have so much money, it can do that to you. But okay, you're working for him, so you start figuring things out. And our team started working on it day and night. And after a year or so, we were very happy. We had figured out a way we can bring it down to 15 minutes. We called him, he took a walkthrough. He did the walkthrough and then said, this is okay, can you do this in 5? We're like, seriously? So that's where we started thinking again. And this is what, when that push came in, and today if you go to any of the operators, you can walk out with your phone activated in about 3 to 5 minutes. Owing to eKYC, biometrics, and whatnot, it has become so easy. It was all because somebody wanted to ensure that the customers get an very, very simple and easy experience. So I think that was again an amazing learning that at times we have to push ourselves. I'm sure a lot of you are solving some amazing problems here, but are you pushing yourselves enough? Set those goals and try and go for them. I think that is what my learning has been. The last part of my story that I would like to share is that of, not really the story, but what I learned from housing.com. I think what I learned from there is what not to do. So I will just leave it there. Moving on, I had a bunch of stories which were more from some things which have inspired me always. Some brands who have stood for these stories all across the world. So this is the story of Amazon. That's where the orange. This is the story a few years back. A friend of mine who used to work at Amazon told me. It was towards the end of the year, they were trying to clear off some stock of a bunch of gaming DVDs. And there is this particular thing after Thanksgiving called Black Friday, which happens there on the last November Friday. And they were trying to clear these. So the pricing was almost at $60. Because of Black Friday, they made it $30, and they put it up on the website. And the marketing team sent out a lot of communication into the existing customer mailboxes saying that this sale will be on, and people will start figuring things out. And Black Friday happened, the sale happened, all stocks were cleared away. On Monday morning, when they were doing an analysis of this whole thing, somebody figured there was an error. While on the website, it still said $29.99, but actually in all the customer communication, what went was just $19.99. So there was a difference of $10. And that was the human error, which just occurred because and we are in the middle of a lot of sales currently as I talk, so I thought there was a relevance of that as well. There's a huge grand sale of Flipkart, of Amazon, of Myntra, everybody seems to be happening here today. Then what to do? All of them were very perplexed in terms of what should be the next step. Some said that we should refund the $10 back to the users who bought it from us. Then somebody said, how can we do that? We should probably figure something else out. Then there were others who said, what about the hundreds who came to the website because they saw a communication of $19.99 and found $29.99. So it seems we have cheated. So while they were debating this, it seems Jeff Bezos walks into the room and he tries to understand what has gone wrong here. And after hearing everybody, he immediately said that, guys, I have built this company on two very important principles: earn trust and customer obsession. And this is not a great example of either of the two. So what should we do from here? He was very, very clear that we need to ensure we do not get any customer by cheating him or giving him wrong communication. So what he did next was truly, truly inspiring. What he did was he said, first of all, to anybody and everybody who's bought the DVD for $29.99, we'll give back the $10 to him. Second thing, for next 24 hours, we will put up fresh stock and sell it for $99.99 so that anybody who came and left, we are able to serve him as well. And thirdly, he put out a small press release apologizing that this is a mistake that their team has done. So now, how many founders here, or how many founders that we have heard of can do that? And this story is not today, you can say they are cash rich, they can do that. This is many, many years back. So even then, I think it is just the mindset which matters. So this is just a quick quote from Bezos, which I thought was very interesting. We see our customers as invited guests to a party, and where we are the host. So we need to ensure that we take care of our guests. We need to ensure we give them the best treatment possible. The next quick story is about this guy. How many of you know this guy? So this guy is Tony Hsieh. He's the founder of Zappos, probably one of the most customer-obsessed companies in the world. And if you can go search for Tony and the examples. He's written a book called Delivering Happiness. One of the examples that I read almost 7-8 years back when his book came out and really stayed with me was the pizza story. The pizza story was Tony was with a bunch of his clients at a conference like this, and after finishing the conference, they went back to the hotel late in the evening, and some of his clients wanted to have a pizza. And when they called up room service told them that they are not serving at that hour. It was like 1 a.m. in the morning, anything hot. So, these guys really wanted to have a pizza. Looking at Tony, Tony said, why don't you do one thing? Call up Zappos and see what happens. So one of these guys goes and calls up Zappos, puts on speakerphone, and he tells them, you know what? We are here at this hotel, and we're really hungry, and we really want to have a pizza. Can you help? So the man on the other side said, okay, hold on for a second, sir. After a couple of minutes, he came back and told him, sir, that while we don't serve pizzas, but here are the numbers of 3 of the pizza joints which are 24 hours open. I've called one of them up, and if you tell me a room number, we'll get it delivered there. This was such an amazing story, and it's a true story that he always talks about. He was so confident that his whole organization that he has built is so customer obsessed that if at 2 a.m. in the morning somebody calls a fashion and lifestyle portal and asks them for a pizza, they help him out for that. So how can we create a culture of that kind of obsession? That's what we are talking about here today. I will actually skip the Intuit story. That's the story of our founder, Scott Cook, and how he started the company. Very quickly, what he always speaks about, and he truly is, when I was studying marketing in my college, people used to say, customer is your wife. And this man started the company because of his wife, because he saw her struggling on the kitchen table with managing her home finances, and that's what led to the product that he launched for us. And that's why today we have one of the world's largest cloud accounting softwares, QuickBooks. That was the only plug I had for the brand today. So how do we get OCD? I think that's very important. How do we figure out that we are doing the things? And I'm trying to distill some of the learnings I've spoken about and how we can get them across to you guys. So, yeah. So one of the first learnings is KYC, know your customer. I think that is where it all starts. A lot of times when we are trying to target everybody and anybody, you might not be able to create a product which is good for a certain segment of people. It is very, very important that you go extremely narrow, in fact, at times uncomfortably narrow, to be able to figure out who you're targeting. Baiju was asked this question by one of the people here, that why aren't you targeting schools? Why are you targeting students? Because he felt that he wants to focus on one community, one segment of people. And that's what we need to keep in mind always. This, some of you who are part of product and engineering team might have heard a lot of times, fall in love with the problem and not the solution. I think this is one of my biggest learnings. A lot of times what we create, we just fall in love with it. We're not able to pivot, move, or see if we need to be more flexible. This is one of the most important things that you need to do, is to always just keep on focusing on the problem. At times you create you write a brilliant code, you create a brilliant product, and you tend to just fall in love with the solution. It's crucial that we fall in love with the problem. Another important one is train your gut. Now what is this? I think we spend a lot of time training our bodies and minds, but how do you train your gut? The more customers you talk to, the more customers you meet, the more stories you listen to, the better your gut becomes. And that's been my learning over so many years across so many companies, that the more I've spoken to anybody, especially who's my customer, the more I've learned, and more it gives me a gut feeling, okay, this is what he might need, and you start working on that. So it's very, very important that you focus on training your gut. Savor the surprises. I think this is very important. When you go out there and you're trying to talk to customers, learn about your market, look for the surprises, because that's where you will find ideas to either build a product. That's where you'll find the ideas. Those surprises will give you ideas to improve your product. You need to savor those surprises. You need to look for those surprises. At times, we are so focused on various other things, whether I'll get funding or not, whether I need to take a large office. I think I would say focus on the customer and try and see if there are any surprises that you can take away. This is, again, a very, very important one. Customer breaks all ties. What does that mean? There will always be debates, and I'm sure a lot of you have those debates. There will be debates between the engineering team and the product team. There will be debate between the sales team and the marketing team. Whenever there is a debate, it is not one against the other, and there is a tie. The only person who should break that tie is the customer. You should always focus on, if this will help my customer, this is good for me, and I should go for it. Extremely important. A lot of you are founders here, are part of the leadership team. It is extremely, extremely important taking things from the top. People in your organization will look up to you. It is extremely crucial, whether the example of Jeff Bezos, Tony Hsieh, Scott Cook, any one of these guys, they lead from the front. It is very, very crucial. This is not somebody else's job. This is your job. You need to ensure this customer obsession is something that everybody in the team is really, really absorbing and using day by day. Finally, once you do all of this, it's definite that what you're finally wanting to achieve is delivering happiness. Yet each and every customer and whatever you're doing feels good about it and feels that this is what I need. So I will just end with there is nothing holy but the customer. Thank you so much.
Does anybody have questions?
Thank you. That's a great presentation. And one specific problem comes up. Yes, we want to serve the customers. Most of the companies, when you ask at the beginning, yes, everybody wants to serve the customers. But the question is why they don't service that. As you rightly said that, they deviated towards the funding or something. So one first problem comes once I think the question, when you worked with the other companies, so how did you improve your gut? Like, I have to keep asking the customers, and also how did you find time to get the customers, and also what are the different routines you made to make sure your gut's gotten strengthened?
Thanks so much for the question. I think for the customers, I don't have to take time out, even till date. Whatever I do, every week I meet a set of customers, even back then. And I think most important things are customers are all around us. You know, at times we feel that we need to set up a focus group discussion, get a market research agency in, and they will talk and they will give us the results. But customers are all around us. Our friends are consuming some of our products. Our family is consuming some of our products. So we need to just go and look and talk to them. Lot of time the learnings just are there to be taken. I don't think so we spend enough time talking to people even around us. Even if walking in the office a lot of time, you will get a lot of insights. So I think finding customers, usually why people see is barrier, because they think it's somebody else's job. Somebody will find me a customer, and then I will go and talk to him, or they will figure out some findings and give it back to me. So I think customers are all around us. We just need to start talking to them.
Hello. Less of a question, more of a compliment that we sail in the same boat. For my company, the vision is customer delight, which takes care of everything, and very much committed on the lines that you are. I'm very happy to see you and get approval of my thought process to be correct.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have a question there.
Thanks for telling us what to do. And somewhere in your presentation, you said that during housing days, you learned what not to do, but you didn't talk about those things. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Okay. So I would say one is that, see, I was part of housing after the soap opera. So that's the disclaimer. So I was not part of the soap opera. That's why I can, and in hindsight, everybody has 20/20 vision, so did I. So I can say I know what not to do. But some of the things was, again, I think somewhere the team there lost focus on the product and on the customer. The focus became, they got distracted by the large amount of funding they got distracted by actually just throwing money into media. So those kind of things, which is weaved into the findings and the, some of the learnings I've shared. So all of that is weaved into that. So that was more of my point, that you need to keep your focus going, and you need to ensure that you're not getting distracted by some of the other factors that, okay, I've got the funding, shall I get the first big office now? Shall I hire the most celebrated marketer in the world? So the focus should still be on your customer and the product you're building. Cool. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.